Battalion 1.
We just had a plane crash into Alpha 4 of the World Trade Center, transmit a second alarm, and start.
When 9/11 happened, very clearly it was a devastating day. And I got to tell you, in the world of intelligence in a local agency, it changed our world.
Nobody really thought that this could ever occur on our soil.
9/11, it was a lot of unknowns, a lot of watching the news, and there was no one to give that answer, to fill that void of the unknown.
The information sharing from the Pulse was different from 9/11 because it was a lot easier. Since 9/11, we exercise, we do drills, with our local partners. So, all the partnerships were in place, and the fact of the matter, whether it was a phone call, whether it was a platform that we were communicating on, it was just so much easier because we've had a lot of experience doing that since 9/11.
Our response to the Pulse nightclub attack, the Fusion Center played a huge role in assisting in the identification of the victims and then identifying the next of kin so that they could be notified.
The PG&E pipeline explosion that occurred in 2010 in San Bruno, that was an explosion that knocked out 35 homes, killed 8 people. They were able to bring in resources and bring in personnel that before the fusion centers wouldn't have existed. That relationship wouldn't have been there.
Our fusion center really does specialize in responding in real time to emergency events or major command posts. In one case, we had a subject basically shoot up a courthouse in North Metro Atlanta. And this was something that we really had very little time to assess whether this was one subject or part of maybe a larger case, or whether others were involved. So the ability for analysts and agents to already be trained to respond to a scene that's very much just kind of chaotic and bring organization to that chaos.
Boston bombing, that was the point that the TDAC deployed forward with our explosives experts and worked directly with the first responders and the Boston police and the BRIC to gather the evidence and immediately discover not only what the bombing device was, but then also where did they get the idea, where did this come from. It was amazing then how those two groups worked together to not only identify the bombers, but then also figure out who else might have been unfortunately inspired by Inspire.
The greatest thing that I took out of the Pulse incident was the collaboration and cooperation between local, state, and federal stakeholders. Probably the best cooperation between those entities that I've ever seen in my 33 years in law enforcement.
The intelligence officer at the Florida Fusion Center notified me of what was going on, and then in turn we alerted Washington, D.C., the National Operations Center. All the information that was coming out of Orlando through the State Fusion Center, up to the intelligence officer, through him and I, back to the National Operations Center and directly in the hands of the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of DHS.
I do think that what helped us a lot was having the partnerships that were already in place. Our CFIX became a hub. We had people responding to our, to the center, and we weren't an EOC, we weren't a command post, we weren't on scene. But the fact of the matter is, our partners knew that information would be flowing through CFIX, so they just come in herds, basically, to set and support and help.
In April 2014, there was an attack on a substation located in Santa Clara, California. And one or more individuals basically went to the substation, cut some fiber optic lines that supported the security components and the communications in the area, and then used high-powered rifles to actually damage the substation, and to the point of where it was inoperable. And our Fusion Center works very closely with the private sector, and PG&E is one of our partners. And so we were contacted by Pacific Gas and Electric Security and asked to help coordinate a surge in security efforts on the other facilities that are located in the San Francisco Bay Area.
when we see them happen, whether it's the Pulse nightclub, San Bernardino, you name it, Paris, it affects our state, it affects Alabama, it affects what's going on in our state. What's going to happen next? Is this part of a bigger conspiracy?
You know, the fact that we had partnerships in place, that really, really helped us a lot. We were behind the scenes in a support role. So, you know, looking into the suspect, you know, finding out who his associates were, being able to provide information to the FBI, to the Orlando Police Department, to the Orange County Sheriff's Office, who were out on scene.
Initial incident went on through the night, and of course our DHS person was working hand in glove with the South Carolina Fusion Center, trying to ascertain and understand all the information and deconflict what was real and what wasn't real, and that there was not a second shooter and so forth, and keeping the Department of Homeland Security and thus the federal government aware of what was going on.
Since the fusion centers have been stood up, that's now kind of an order of business, and I would say in a lot of areas an expectation from the local emergency managers and local police and fire that that those resources are now capable and that they're now there.
In those kind of cases, we've now had a lot more experience working with multi-agency responses so that it's no longer figuring out which lane which agency's in. It's really kind of become a well-oiled machine that in these chaotic responses, everyone knows their place, their role, so that we're sharing information without having to go out of our way and cut through red tape to do that.
It's really made a difference coming together as a fusion center and, you know, having those resources.
You know, it's going to happen in West Virginia. Just so, you know, we don't know when or where, but knowing that I have a network that I can draw from with special sets of or skill sets that, you know, we might not have them in West Virginia, or they might not have them in Maryland or Pennsylvania or Ohio, one of the surrounding states, but Missouri might have it, or Arkansas or California might have that. And I would guess that when something like that would happen, within 20 minutes I'd start getting calls from those people saying, here's what we have at our fusion center, what do you need?
So the ability to respond quicker to threats and create a better investigative or defensive posture has never been better in the United States than it is now, because of the Fusion Center network.